Welcome to the Ohio Fly Tying Guild. Something a little different this month. I've got 3 flies planned. I use them for panfish, excellent panfish flies, but they're all very good trout flies. The first one we're going to do is a Griffith Gnat. 2 materials: some Peacock herl and Hackle. I'll get a hook in. I'm going to tie it on 14, which is probably larger than most people would tie it on. I'm going to tie it on 14 because it's easier to see. Probably 18 and down. First off, I'm going to get a thread base. From what I understand, some people like to tie on the Hackle first, like me, and some like to tie the Peacock in first and then tie the hat. If I got about the right size here, that should work well. I'm going to tie this in the way I would standard dry flies. I've got this stripped down the bare stem where my tie. A little bit more stripped off of this side than this side of Hackle. That way, when I start wrapping, it should just stay in line, not have some of the barbs sticking out toward the rear. Over the top, and then come back around in between. Never seen that technique. It probably doesn't look very secure, but it is. It's in there tight. Now, the Peacock. Next, I like to tie the Peacock in by the tips, but the very tips are very fragile. So I like to get rid of about first 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, depending on how long they are. Spin my thread counterclockwise. So it'll cooperate with me. It'll jump toward the rear. Keep this bound down. Lift it up, make sure I'm all the way back to the high-end spot of the Hackle. Now, of course, I could wrap the thread around the Peacock. I could just run the thread forward and then wrap the Peacock. I like to, if I'm not going to make it any tougher with wrapping the thread around, I like to chase the thread forward. That keeps the Peacock herl from spreading out, keep them together in a clump. I like to do the last turn in front of the thread. 2 or 3 turns in front. Another one behind. Start forming my head. Get rid of the excess. Actually, there's probably, especially the smaller sizes, there's enough left over there for another fly. Now the Hackle, I got to be careful not to let it twist on me. I want the good side out toward the front. Last turn in front. Got a couple Hackle there, or a couple barbs that aren't cooperating. That's what they make scissors for. Get rid of the excess. Almost cut the head, but not quite. Hmm. Got some barbs hanging down right there. It's not going to make any difference, in my opinion, the way this is going to fish. Okay, there's Griffith's gnat. Anybody has any questions?
Yeah, Gary, did you just use one peacock herl for the body on that?
This is a size 14, and I used 4
Oh, okay.
together. Now I probably could have gotten a peacock eye out and used the uh, barbs down below the eye itself, and it would be really plush. And I probably could have gotten away with one, wrapped it real careful, and it would have been good enough. But I figured for this fly, especially for the demo, and just tying it to fish in order to fish, 3 or 4, depending on the size of the fly, it's going to be just fine.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That brings us to the second fly, which is a foam ant pattern. Very good panfish fly. Oh, hold on. One other thing I wanted to show you, especially for panfish. I started putting a red tail on some of the Griffith gnats, and it seems like on days where I can't get any to come up to the top of the water and hit this, if I throw one in with a red tail, that can make all the difference in the world. Just got some hackle barbs. I think these were trapping. Any type of hackle barb is going to work as long as it's red. Seems to be the magic color. On back to the ant. All of these flies I'm tying on a standard dry fly hook, TMC 100 actually, all of them. This one is I'm going to a size 16. Now, foam-bodied flies are notorious for wanting to spin around the hook shank. Some of you guys know me, have tied with me for a long time. You know, I usually, when I can, I refrain from using super glue. This is not one of those flies. I'm going to be using a couple super glue at a couple spots. I'm going to start the foam. Got the strip thin down. Usually, a rule of thumb, that's about the hook gape width. Of course, you can adjust that any way you wish, wider or thinner. I'm going to knock the corners off of this. And I'm going to start it at the hook point. This is where I'm going to put just a little bit of super glue. Actually, what I'm going to use is flat tires cement, if I can get it on camera. What I understand, just a type of super glue. Underneath, so it'll be bound down in between the foam and hook shank, thread base, I should say. Now I'm going to come back up to just in front of the hook point. Bring this over. Make a little bulb there in the back. Take a look at this and make sure that looks like part of an ant. Especially that angle it does. Yeah. Back to super glue. Just a touch is all we need. I'm going to run this all the way forward to behind the hook eye. Bind it down. Back up just a little bit. Form the front section. I'm going to crush that real tight. And again, I want to take a look, make sure it looks halfway decent to me. Line that down 3 or 4 times. Get rid of the excess. Keep that straight till the super glue sets. Now I'm going to put a little, I'll call it an indicator. Frankly, I like to refer to them as a fly finder. When I'm fishing a dry fly, that is going in and out of the various sections of light conditions. I have a hard time keeping track of my fly, especially a black one like this. So I'm going to put a color on here that I can see well in most every light condition. And I'm going to use some black hackle. Shiny side, dull side. I want the shiny side facing forward. I'll tie this in the same manner. Get my thread counterclockwise. Again, so I'll cooperate with me. I'm going to turn over the front. I'm going to come back up in between the hackle and that first wrap, and then find the rest of this down. Now I just want at most 2 wraps. And this is not for floatability, this hackle. It's simulate legs. Look at that lady. That little piece. Get rid of the excess hackle. That fits. Now finish. With the thread gone. Some extra hackle hanging out the front. Just because this is a demo, I'll get that cut out best I can. But that can go right in my box, just the way it is, without any issues. I like to cut this about the length of the hackle. And with that, I forgot to mention what that is. That's poly yarn that I use. There's any number of products you can use, Parapost material, Zelon, all kinds of different patterns. I think it's all probably about the same material. Just some poly yarn is going to work just perfect. And that I can see in and out of the various light conditions well. I like the orange, fluorescent orange, if I've got it, and chartreuse for an indicator. All right. Next fly. Just a little water bug. Rubber legs. Actually, this one does have a couple extra components. Got the rubber legs, obviously, foam for the body. Underneath is Peacock. I added that. I'll think this. You always got to keep in mind, as you guys know, what the fishes see. And to me, that looks buggier than a bunch of foam bound down. And a different method for strike indicator or fly finder again. Just some foam, and I'll show you how I incorporate that. Up to size 12 for this fly. Again, standard dry fly hooks. I'm going to use some olive thread. And first, the olive thread is going to go on, and then I'm going to put foam, but I'm going to bind it down really tight. And this first portion, I won't need to use any super glue, because I can get it bound down pretty well between this method I'm going to use for a thread base. I'm going to spin my thread clockwise. Of course, it's going to, every time I take a turn, it's going to spin clockwise anyway. But I'm going to get it corded up. And I'm going to open turns. This is what I call a crisscross thread base. As you guys probably know, if I'm wrapping toward the rear of the hook, meaning toward the hook point in the bend, the wraps are at that angle. When I come forward toward the hook eye, it's going to be at a different angle. So this first layer of thread is going to be bound down by the second layer. And since I corded the thread, well, there's some texture there. I can actually feel it. You might see the bod can jump as it goes back and forth. I can actually feel the texture. It's going to be a lot better thread base for this type of fly. And next we have the foam body. I'll cut this off flush, off camera. And I'm going to, which isn't absolutely necessary, but things go smoother if I cut these corners off. Try that again. Come all the way back, actually around the bend slightly. Now I'm going to go back and forth till I get this bound down well. Just as this section of foam, I'm just destroying any floatability. We're going to have the rest of it still intact. And this fly is going to ride down fairly low in the water, probably down on the surface film. I've got 2 Peacock herl. Again, because I think it looks better with herl. That, to me, doesn't look very buggy. And once we get some Peacock wrapped in there, hopefully, the fish will agree with me that it looks much, much buggier. Cut the excess off of this front portion of the Peacock. Get this back in line here. All right. So I'm not going to thread up for. Again, this is something that I added to the pattern. Actually, I do this on several different foam type patterns. Last turn in front of the thread. That way, all I have to do is come up and make a turn. I'll take two, or another one back behind. Get rid of the excess herl. And of course, the next step's going to be pull this over, and I just can't help but think that that looks more enticing than a bunch of foam matted down. So I've left a bit of space here in between the head and my thread. Line this down, make sure that's going to look like a bug. Yep. Now I'd like to cut this off at about the same angle as the hook eye. And if you want, you can knock these corners off here and here. I kind of like it like that. It's almost, if you strip hard enough, it'd almost be like a girder with that lip hanging out front. Now, next thing we need to add some rubber legs and my fly finder. And then there is one spot where I do want to put super glue on this one. I'm going to add the fly finder first. 2 millimeter foam. Very thin, just slightly wider than the thickness. Just barely going to catch it right here. I like to tie this on first before I do the rubber legs. So this way I can bind the foam down tight. If I put the rubber legs on first, then they're going to want to pull together and not be in much of a V shape. Now that little piece of foam I can see much better than the rest of the fly floating downstream. Now, time for rubber legs. I like to put this in between the vise and the thread. Bring this up and over to the near side. Take a loose turn. Bring this up on the far side. Make another loose turn. So this, get an adjustment. Are these both about the same length to the rear? And then I can cut in front, and there's my 4 legs. I like the front a little bit shorter than the rear, just personal preference. Put these on the side. Half hitch there. Just down where I want it. And I'm going to scoop my thread up. I very rarely do this. Scoop my thread up and tie off behind the eye on the hook shank. Again, in an effort to keep the rubber legs from becoming 90 degrees away from the fly. And I tie, would finish by hand. I like to do a half hitch first so things stay put. The thread where it needs to be and pull back on the foam. I actually need 3 hands, but we'll get it done. Get rid of the thread. I am going to add a super glue, like I said. One little spot right here, soak through the thread and get down to the foam. If I can find it, here it is. Just one glob right here. Being careful not to get it in the hook eye. These down.
Gary,
Yes.
have you ever tried instead of whip finishing this fly off? I find on foam flies when you're whip finishing over the top of foam, um, it eventually comes loose in the water.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it I, I use super glue and make about inch and a half length of super glue on the thread, and just wrap the thread around the body with the super glue, and it will not come loose.
It's solid. Yep. Yep. I have seen that done, and that's a good procedure. Yeah.
Okay.
That's and that's a good point, Fred. And that's why I like to scoot up and tie it in
At the eye, right?
at the eye of the hook, right on the hook itself. Makes kind of difficult. You saw me
Oh,
struggling
yeah.
a little bit, but that works as well. And yeah, the super glue. What is the other? I think doing parachutes, tying off parachutes.
Right. Same thing.
I've seen guys use the technique you're talking about.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions? Any comments? For easy, quick flies. And
Yeah, you got 3 of them done in a half an hour or so.
yeah, I like to keep them simple, especially fishing for panfish. I like to keep the flies simple. That way I don't feel so bad if I lose one in a tree on a back cast. Thanks everyone for showing up, and hopefully we'll see you next month.